When you talk about the 2025 Washington Nationals, there's a few names out there. James Wood, CJ Abrams, but also Dylan Cruz. And today we look at Dylan Cruz, and I'm telling you, I'm ready for a Dylan Cruz breakout.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I am your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course, the video version of this said podcast. You can check that out over on YouTube. Again, just search Locked On Nationals and hit that subscriber button, drop a thumbs up, leave a comment, do whatever you would like to do. Later on in today's show, I'm telling you right now, I've got the script for the Washington Nationals and their new name over at Nats Park. Let's go dive into that script that I have seen. I'm joking, it's not an actual script, but I do have some ideas that I do think are very possible. So we'll have that discussion for you in the final segment of today's show. In the second segment, we're just going to get into some of the latest Nats roster moves. The Nationals just assigned a few different guys down to minor league camp, and I think there are some interesting moves. And also, the Nationals recently made a pretty big 40-man roster decision, and it had a lot of Nationals fans out there kind of scratching their heads when they first signed Kyle Finnegan back on the team. We're going to try to make sense of that move, as one of the fan favorites, Stone Garrett, was DFA'd, but I will say he is back with the Washington Nationals. But why would they do that? And who is out there that they probably should have done? We'll have that discussion for you later on in the show today, but I am here to tell you right now why Dylan Cruz is set to be not just a star in 2025, but I think he is a superstar. And yes, I woke up this morning drinking the Washington Nationals tea. I woke up and I was like, today is a good day to tell you why Dylan Cruz will be a superstar. I think so far in spring training, Robert Hassel III has really stuck out as one of the most impressive guys, but he's going to take some time to get up in the majors. Outside of that, Dylan Cruz has been the most impressive Washington National so far. And I think that one thing that I have really noticed with Dylan Cruz so far in camp is the fact that he has a totally new approach. And Davey Martinez talked a lot about it this offseason, and also so far this spring training. One thing that really hurt Dylan Cruz in 2024, not only in the minors, but also up in the majors, was the fact that he didn't have like his typical approach that you saw down at LSU. He wasn't his typical self. And I think it's easy to just say, well, yeah, he wasn't hitting 500 like he was at LSU. He wasn't scorching hot like he was in 2023 when he first made his professional debut with the Nationals in Fredericksburg, then quickly went up to Double-A Harrisburg. He wasn't that hot. But I also think if you kind of look at it, Dylan Cruz got caught up in a lot of different things. And I think a lot of players of his caliber do this same thing. Number one, the expectations for Dylan Cruz that we have placed on him are pretty outrageous. He was one of, if not the best college hitter of all time coming out of the draft. We expected him to hit the ground running and make his debut this past season, which he did. But when we expected him to make that debut, we expected him to bat 300 and for it all to click. No room for growth there. That just was never realistic. And so for some people, it was a little bit disappointing to see Dylan Cruz only bat like 218 with a 641 OPS this past season. But also, it's deeper than the numbers. One thing that I think with Dylan Cruz, and really just kind of hung out there to dry, in my opinion, for his own approach, was that this guy was kind of selling out for the long ball. If you look at his mechanics and the way that he has always been a great hitter, Dylan Cruz this past year kind of went away from what made him so great at LSU. I've noticed a lot with his hands here as of recent, especially this spring training. Last year, he was a little bit more finicky with his hands, moving them around just a little bit more and getting a little cute up there at the plate. And in my opinion, I felt as if that Dylan was trying to hit the long ball. And by the way, that's what gets you paid nowadays. Hitting the 30 to 40 home runs a year, batting .280, having a high OPS, that is what gets you paid. But that really affected his approach. And it really affected what made Dylan Cruz special. What makes Dylan Cruz special is hitting the ball up the middle, going for 40 to 50 doubles a year, playing great defense in center field, which, by the way, did you see that diving catch yesterday when he was in center? Pretty damn good. But also playing great defense in right field, where he will be this season. I think that Dylan Cruz, so far this spring training, has looked a lot like his 2023 self rather than his 2024 self, and that is a good thing. He is thinking up the middle, a gap-to-gap hitter, someone who's going to spray it in all directions, get those extra bases, and ultimately get on base. He looks different, and his approach seems to be a lot better. Davey Martinez was on a podcast here recently, discussing kind of what he expects from the former number one overall prospect in the game. And he expects that Dylan Cruz is going to take more walks and be a more selective hitter. And you might say, well, that seems pretty obvious because last year he was not taking his walks and he wasn't that selective overall. But if you look at Baseball Savant, and again, what Dylan does best, in my opinion, is just put the ball in play. Good things will happen. But you look at his spray chart. You look at all the different things from what he did this past year. Cruz was trying to, number one, pull the baseball, and number two, hit home runs. That's not what makes Dylan Cruz Dylan Cruz. He is going to barrel up the baseball better this year, when I think he does have a better approach, by the way. And I think he will continue that. He's going to have a higher exit velo. He's going to square up the ball better than what he did this past year. Because while his hard hit percentage was well above average for Major League Baseball, his barrel percentage was down below average in Major League Baseball. I think Dylan Cruz is going to have his breakout season in 2025. I'm not expecting an MVP caliber season, but I am expecting an above league average season. And for young prospects, for which Dylan Cruz is that still, don't get it twisted, this is going to be a very positive year for him. I expect like around an 830 OPS, but I want to be more exact than that. I don't just want to give you an OPS for Dylan Cruz here. I think that if Dylan Cruz can get on base at a 370 clip, and just overall take some more walks, be more selective, have your pitch, have it in your mind, and let it rip. That is a simple goal for Dylan Cruz this season. And if those things happen, I think the power will come automatically. But he has to get back to his meat and potatoes, the simple things in life. Ask yourself this, talking to Dylan Cruz here. What makes me me? Why did the Nationals take me number 2 overall? It's not because we expect you to hit 40 home runs. It's because we expect you to be one of the best contact hitters in all of baseball, be a team leader, be great defensively, great on the base path, cover a lot of ground out in center field or right field, wherever you play, and get on base and be a team leader, which I think he will be. One thing that I noticed, and Spencer Nussbaum of the Washington Post, he just had this story here recently, actually, it was from the Washington Post. I know that it was either Spencer or Andrew Golden. One thing that I noticed with Dylan Cruz is that he doesn't really watch like the iPads after his at-bats. And I always thought that was interesting. I've always kind of noticed that about him. And then you kind of get to talk to him a few times, and he's kind of an old school guy, which I like. I do like analytics, and I do like my coaching staff to be into analytics, but there is a healthy balance there. Dylan Cruz does not watch his past at-bats. He watches the game. And Davey Martinez is like thrilled with that. I think it's cool. And I just think that it just goes to show you that this guy is locked into the game. And he said it as much a few days ago on a podcast that he wants to win. And Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez, they are tired of hearing this rebuild crap. They want to win. And Dylan Cruz, he is going to be at the forefront of that if the Washington Nationals do win in 2025. I would not be surprised if they do turn some heads here. But also with that said, I'm not expecting them to win like 85 games. I think that's unreasonable at this point. We'll have a total record prediction as we get closer to the season because we're a few weeks away from Major League Baseball being right here in Washington, D.C. And there's going to be a lot to cover before we get to that point here. But overall, I'm ready for a Dylan Cruz breakout. He is going to get back to his LSU self. He is going to have a better approach. And I think with where we are today, Dylan Cruz is heading in the right direction for having that breakout season in 2025. What says you? Let me know. You can tweet at me at RyanClary11. You can go to YouTube, drop a comment. Again, that is Locked On Nationals, wherever you get your podcast. But for the video version, check us out over on YouTube. Again, search Locked On Nationals, and that is where you'll find your daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. So now, let's get into this. The Nationals kind of made a weird roster move lately. They had a lot of Nationals fans out there upset, and it was Stone Garrett. Stone Garrett was DFA'd once they re-signed Kyle Finnegan, and everyone was like, why don't you DFA this guy? Why is it not this guy? And I'm going to give you that guy after we tell you about who are friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? You can crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. And Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. And they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. And then the fact is that Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids, and there's no shells. Wonderful Pistachios for that grab and go ease, which I use before and after I work out, and also when I'm in the office in the Navy Yard. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. All you have to do is visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So, first and foremost, let me get into the latest Nationals moves, as they have sent down a couple guys to minor league camp, which was a little bit of a surprise for two of these guys, really, in my opinion. But the Nationals got to start making some cuts, quote unquote. And so these were the guys who got sent down to minor league camp. Amongst the highlighting names, in my opinion, and the 2 guys that I was surprised about was number 1, Jarlin Susana, and number 2, Tyler Stewart. Both right-handed pitchers. Tyler Stewart looked pretty good in camp. Susana, on the other note, did not look very good. But I did expect him to kind of get some more time. Like, I expected Susana to get a lot of innings this spring training. And I wasn't really necessarily expecting like some big time performance from Susanna. Like the kid is 20 years old. He's a very raw prospect still, but he looked really good this past season. And he's only a few steps away from the majors. And again, while he is very young, I still wanted to see a little bit more of him. Is that selfish? Of course it is. But I still think that with Susanna being such a big time prospect, being a top 100 guy in most publications that you check, you should be excited about Harley and Susanna. And Davey Martinez, I thought that he would want to lay more eyes on him as we kind of got closer to opening day. I didn't expect him to be amongst the first guys being sent down to minor league camp. While I do expect him to be in the minor leagues, and while it's going to be a far-fetched situation for him to make a major league debut this season, I still would have wanted him to see more and get some more reps as a big leaguer and being around the guys. Because Susanna, we talk about Sakura a lot on this show. He is a beast. But Susanna is in that conversation also. He is going to be a big part of this Nationals rebuild. So seeing Susanna, I would have wanted to see a little bit more from him. And now, unfortunately, in the appearances that he made, he wasn't very good. But still, I still wanted to see the Nationals give it a try, because that's what aggressive organizations do, is they're not going to rush them up to the bigs, but in spring training, you want to get your guys reps. So that part was just a little frustrating for me today. Tyler Stewart, one of the guys you got back at the trade deadline this year, I thought he looked pretty good in a couple appearances, but again, similar to Susanna, like I thought I would be able to see more. And even then, more so than Susanna, Tyler Stewart is in AAA. Like he is going to make his debut this season, barring any injuries. I think that it would have been beneficial to get more eyes on him. But with that in mind, the Nationals just did not do that. But speaking of big-time prospects, or former big-time prospects, rather, Stone Garrett was DFA'd for Kyle Finnegan to make room on the Nationals 40-man roster. Now, if you think about it this way, and sorry, I just moved this around a little bit, but geez, as we kind of get into it, it was a little bit of a head-scratching move for me. And I saw this, and I was like, you know what? You're right. I saw a lot of people complaining, being, why was Stone Garrett DFA'd? Someone who has shown us promise as an offensive weapon for this team. And how did Jackson Rutledge survive that? Well, there's two sides to the story here. One is my side, and number two is the Nationals side. My side is that Jackson Rutledge should have been the one DFA'd. And in fact, I have said it time and time again. I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to give up on this project. It's not going to work out at this point. And so far in spring training, in 3 appearances from, he actually hasn't looked all too terrible at this point. But if you look at his regular season in the minors this last year, it was not encouraging at all. And there is a bigger picture story here. The Nationals have not done well as far as developing him goes. But last year in 27 starts in Rochester, he had a 6.4 ERA. The year prior to that, he had a 3.7 ERA across 2 different leagues. But still, this past year as a 24, 25-year-old former first-round pick, it was a tough go for it. But let's get in the second avenue here as to why the Nationals chose not to DFA Jackson Rutledge. Mike Rizzo has always just had a tough time giving up on former first-round picks. And I get it. I understand why the Nationals do not just give up on first-round picks easily. Because, again, it is tough, and sometimes it takes a while to develop these guys. The reason why Jackson Rutledge was not DFA'd was because they knew that someone out there probably would have taken a chance on Jackson Rutledge. And if you pin the two together with Stone Garrett, while he has had success up in the bigs, talking about Garrett and not really with Rutledge, I think the chances of someone picking up Stone Garrett are probably a little less likely than what it was for Jackson Rutledge here. Jackson Rutledge, again, a former first-round pick. He was a pretty big prospect coming out of the 2019 draft. Like, he was not a nobody. Coming out of the JUCO ranks, like, he was a good, legit prospect. He just unfortunately has not panned out up to this point. And so with that in mind, I think Mike Rizzo and David Martinez had a really tough decision to make here. Because Jackson Rutledge, again, I think was more likely to at some point get picked up, and the Nationals would have been SOL. You can do that abbreviation, whatever you want. But Jackson Rutledge, if it was up to me, he would be the one DFA'd, and he probably would have cleared waivers, or maybe would have. Then you'd have just brought him back, and if not, then the project was not going to work out anyways. So that's where I stand on that. But now let's get into some of this. Potential Nats Park names. I was doing this yesterday with a friend, and I was like, you know what? I got to talk about this in the show because people care about where they go to. Like, Nats Park is cool. It rolls off the tongue. But I think I got a couple as well here, some local businesses that you might want to see for Nats Park next. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So I've got about 9 different potential names for Nationals Park. Now, for those who have missed it, Forbes reported 2 days ago that the Nationals will be shopping around, again, their stadium name right, and they will be looking to change the name and sell it to some sponsor of some sort. So this is big news. It's going to generate a lot of revenue for this team, and it's going to just be past overdue. This is something that they need to do like yesterday. So I've got some potential names here, and I do think that a lot of these, if not all of them, are very realistic. Let's start off with my number one, Geico Park. I could just see it. Around this area, you see Geico everywhere. Up to my knowledge at this point, I've never heard of a Geico Park. And I'm sure you can look it up, or Geico Field, whatever it is. It just makes sense. Like, I believe Geico is based in DC, or at least I know they have some offices here in the DC area. But Geico Park, I could see it. I could definitely 110,000% see it. Geico has been partnered with the Nationals forever at this point, and they're all around sports. So Geico Park, how does it sound? I don't know. Boeing Field. Yes, the people who create planes and the engineers there, they do have a headquarters here in the D.C. area, right outside Washington, D.C., and Pentagon City, right down the road from where I am right now. But Boeing Field, I could see it. Again, multi-billion-dollar. I've not heard of a Boeing Field. I've not heard of Boeing Park, but that'd be kind of cool. Get a Boeing, whatever, and change I don't know. These are just cool ideas here. My number 3 one. This is honestly, I think, is a sleeper. Marriott Park or Marriott Field. The hotel company that, you see in every single city, every single country in the whole world, based here in DC. Founded here in DC. That would be kind of cool. I believe there is a Marriott hotel. In fact, I'm 99% sure there is multiple Marriott hotels right outside of Nationals Park. It would make sense for the Nationals to partner in with these guys, and then guess what? You stay at a Marriott wherever you go. Or, I don't know, you partner with them. You give away vacations at a Marriott resort in Mexico or whatever it is. I think it would make sense. Another one I think would make sense. Delta Park. I believe the Nationals' official airline sponsor is Delta, so I could see that make it happen. But also, there's a hub here in the DC area with United Airlines out in Dulles. Maybe it's United Field. That would be kind of cool. I would like United Field. I'm a United guy. I think United Airlines is the best one that I've been on personally. So I would sign up for it. Another one, headquarters moving here to DC if they haven't already. Amazon Field, Amazon Park, Amazon. You know it. You love it. We love Amazon here at Locked On Nationals. I could see that happening. And last but not least, an energy company that represents the DC area. Pepco Field. Pepco, the energy company in Washington, D.C. I don't know how much money they have. I don't know if they've got millions to just dodge out there for a stadium, right? But Pepco Park would be kind of cool. And I know it sounds a lot like Petco Park up in San Diego, but Pepco Park, I think that'd be kind of cool. So we'll see what the Nationals decide to do, but those are just some of my favorite names I wanted to throw out there. And if you have some, seriously, let me know. I love this idea. I am fascinated by what the Nationals could do with it. And this is your home and my home after all. So let me know what you think that the Nationals Park should be named. And even wrong answers would be great as well. So thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.